Hey everybody, happy return to lunchtime tutorial streams. Now that I'm looking at myself on camera, I'm realizing that there's a necklace in my pocket that I meant to untangle and put on my neck, and I never did. So we'll see if I can do that while talking. But and also I didn't write my supply list, so obviously I'm having some issues getting back into the swing of tutorial streams. But regardless, I am so happy to be here with everybody out there on the internet today on this Thursday lunchtime tutorial stream. Our project for today is going to be this one. This is obviously I was having a vaguely corporate moment when I named this, because I named it the Circle Back Pendant. Yes, I am writing on my whiteboard right now. No, I'm not writing down the supplies. So we'll talk tools and supplies in just a minute. Those of you who are note takers, I'm sure you will be able to pay attention. It's actually a pretty simple project. I did try to give myself a little bit of a, see, look, I have another necklace. It's very exciting. Look at that. This one needs to be shorter now though. Don't you love it when I'm using my webcam as a mirror? It's fantastic. Anyway, so let's talk tools and supplies for this afternoon's tutorial. All right, it's a pretty simple one because we have Torch Thursday this evening, and tonight's Torch Thursday project is not simple. I'm pretty sure that I'm not going to destroy anything on the internet, but tonight's project is going to be really fun. I call it drawing with wire, and it's just kind of a tutorial on how to make a little sort of doodle, kind of, you know, drawn pendant with wire. Just a couple techniques that you can use to do that. But of course that's this evening. Let's talk about this afternoon. We're going to need, for our circle back pendant, we are going to need wire, of course. So we're going to need 16 gauge wire. Wow, I remember this from last night vaguely, that this camera is extremely excited about everything. I don't even have my light on. Like, put my light on and it's like even more excited. But I'm gonna fix this a little bit here, producing on the fly. I think I guess just, you know, I got caught up in too much toad angst last night. Gee, I don't know whose fault that is, stream people, but I never did fix that. Alright, I'm going to call that, I think, focused enough for today's stream. So, you're going to need some wire. This is 16 gauge bronze. My pendant, my sample I did was 16 gauge sterling silver. Either of those is going to work, but you're going to need some 16 gauge wire for your frame. You're also going to need some 26 gauge wire. It's still really freaking bright. What the heck? I 100% just, you know, took the exposure down an entire notch, and it's still like insane. Okay, how about that as being not like, oh my god, this is way too bright for me before coffee on the Beading Dream stream. Good lord. Okay, so 16 gauge wire, that's for the frame. 26 gauge wire, I'm also using bronze for that. That's going to be for adding your beads. 26 or 28 is what you're going to want to use for adding these beads. Your limiting factor, of course, is going to be what fits through your beads. 26 is going to be a little sturdier, 28 is going to be a little easier to work with, so really it is totally up to you, just depending upon your beads and also your own personal level of, you know, hand strength and dexterity. In addition to my wire, I am going to need beads, and I know I'm not going to need 4, 5, 8-inch strands of beads. I just grabbed this whole hank, and then the thing holding them together at the top came off, so now I have these loose strands of beads. But I'm using these, they're 4mm tiger eye and hematite. So something that is 4mm, 3-4mm is going to work great for this pendant. Now, of course, here's a secret that's not really a secret, is the bigger your beads are, the faster this pendant is going to come together, which means that if your heart is telling you that you really want to use some like 2mm pyrite, these are from the tray that I did not even get to on last night's live sales stream. Why? Because everyone was berating me about potential toad murder. Anyway, that just means more tiny shinies for Saturday night. But if you decide you want to use, you know, tiny 2mm beads, obviously your pendant's going to take a little bit more time to put together than if you use 4 or 5mm beads. Also, you're going to need a little bit more wire if you decide to use teeny tiny beads, and you should probably use 28 gauge wire. So I'm going to use these 4mm tiger eye and hematite. That's going to work together a lot more quickly than anything smaller than that, and so hopefully we can get this done on time, since it's just oh, it's Heather, me, and Carol in the store today. Yay! 25% of our Beading Dream staff is on vacation this week, and it's definitely a bit of an adjustment being one person down in a staff of 4. It's a thing. All right, so that's what you need for materials, okay? Beads, 16 gauge wire, 26 or 28 gauge wire. Now, obviously, if you want to wear your pendant, you're probably going to want some kind of a chain and clasp. You could use a leather cord. You could put this on a beaded piece. So today's tutorial is mainly going to focus on the pendant, not necessarily the mechanism for hanging. As far as tools go, you're going to need your basic wire working tools. That's going to be your chain nose pliers, your wire cutters. Wow, those wire cutters have definitely seen better days. And of course your round nose pliers. You're also going to need either a ring mandrel or a couple of dowels. You're going to need one that's about 1/2 to 5/8 of an inch in diameter, and then you're going to need one that's about 1 inch to 1 1/4 inches in diameter. So I'm going to start by cutting myself about 1 foot of that 16 gauge wire, and that's more than I'm going to need for this project, but it's just easier for me to cut a piece and work with it rather than trying to work off the spool, because the spool is hella awkward. And this is bronze wire, so I'm not so concerned about the waste as I would be with sterling silver wire, but I am probably going to wind up cutting a couple inches of this wire off. So if you are doing sterling silver or gold filled, you can wait until I finish this, and then you can get the actual measurement, and then that's what you can cut if you're so inclined. Ow! That hurt. I drilled my thumb. I drilled my thumb the other day. It's mostly healed. Like, there's not any grossness. It won't focus because it wants to look at my face. So now you want to focus on my face, camera, where last night you did not. But yeah, I drilled my thumb the other day, and so it's mostly healed, but I just caught it with my wire, and that was not pleasant. Okay, so what I have to do with my 2 dowels is I've got to create this kind of double loop construction, and interestingly enough, the easiest way to do this is actually to create the big loop and then to create the small loop within it. So that means I'm going to start with my big dowel. Yes, I'm going to start with the big stick. I don't necessarily speak softly, but I do carry a big stick. Don't piss me off, stream. I'll stick you. Luckily, I can't actually beat anybody with the stick through the internet. Thank goodness that that's not actually a thing that's possible. So, got my big stick, got my wire. I'm going to leave myself a solid couple of inches at the end of my wire. This is going to wind up turning into my loops here. So I'm just going to hold that on my dowel. There. So I've got my couple of inches that's just sort of overhanging my dowel, and I'm going to take my wire and I'm just going to bend it around my dowel. I'm going to whack my camera with it because of course I am. And the thing that most of you who have seen me do things like this before know is that I'm using a dowel that's a little bit smaller than what I want my circle to be, because what's going to happen when I release tension is my circle is going to spring up. So you see that circle is now a solid 1/4 of an inch bigger than my big stick. Now I'm going to take my little stick and I'm going to put my little stick in there. And so what I've created here is I've created kind of essentially a top, a midpoint up here. So I'm going to take my little stick, I'm going to insert that in at the midpoint, and then I'm going to take the longer piece of wire and I'm just going to hold it firmly, okay, like I'm legitimately pressing on that wire so that it doesn't move on the dowel, and then I'm going to wrap my wire around my little stick And lo and behold, we have that circle back pendant shape that we are looking for. Now, you can obviously adjust this shape in a couple of ways. Number one, you could use different sized dowels. If you want a bigger pendant, smaller pendant, use different sized dowels. But if you're like, hey, I would kind of like a bigger pendant, but I already made this thing and I don't necessarily want to use a bigger dowel, let me show you how to adjust that. Okay, so if you want to adjust the outer circumference of the pendant, you're going to do it using this wire, and this is why we left ourselves a good couple of inches. The problem with this wire, of course, is that starting from here, it's straight, which is not what we want. So I'm going to grab my big stick again. I'm just going to use the very edge of it to curve that wire so that now it's more like a circle. And then if I want to expand my outside loop, I just push like so. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm taking this end, moving it closer to the midpoint, and see what that does is it makes that outside circle bigger. Now, I only have so much time on tutorial today, so I'm not going to make it gigantic, but I think that is about the proportions that I want. So what you should have at this point is you should have a double circle, and you should have 3 basically parallel wires at the top. They're not going to be exactly parallel, like if I just move them together, see one just kind of wants to go underneath. That's not actually the end of the world. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to set this down for a minute. I'm going to cut myself some 26 gauge wire. Of my 26 gauge wire, I'm going to start with about 4-ish feet. This is one of those projects that's going to take more wire than you think. Oh, this is that tragically awful spool of 26 gauge. Oh crap. Okay. Excuse me while I fight with this wire spool. Talk amongst yourselves. Or don't talk amongst yourselves since nobody's chatting, but it's gonna be a minute. God, this poor spool, like something tragically awful happened to this spool while it was being spooled at the, at Rio Grande where I got it from. That's not even close to the right frame. Like you can see, like both of the ends of the wire are actually underneath, and which makes it almost impossible to extricate any solid length of the wire easily. Yeah, it's just a horrible mess. And oh my god, what the actual... Well, it's definitely before 9 p.m., so if I actually curse, that's for sure a drink. But, like, this should not be this difficult. Yay! Hi, Lori! Alright, I'm gonna regret this. I know I'm gonna regret this, but what did you have for lunch? Because Lori always has the best food to... Okay, I did manage to actually extricate 4 feet-ish from this spool, so we're going to cut that off. So again, this is one of those projects that's going to take more wire than you think it should. 4 feet may be a little excessive, but I would rather have too much than not enough for this type of project, because yes, you can absolutely 100% add a wire, but it's a little awkward looking, so it looks overall just generally cleaner if you don't have to add a wire. Oh, breakfast was chocolate chip cookies. Oh my god, there's a reason that Lori is our people, because that sounds like an amazing breakfast. It occurs to me, I made waffles, I made gluten-free waffles for a gathering with friends on Sunday, and I 150% should have put chocolate chips in them, and I didn't, and now I'm so mad at that missed opportunity for gluten-free chocolate chip waffles. What in the world was I thinking? Obviously I wasn't, because it was Sunday morning and I was just trying to get to the gathering by 11 a.m. But, yeah, must add chocolate chips to the grocery list. Thanks, Lori. Or maybe not thanks. If I have to buy new pants, I take back my thanks. Okay, so we've got our circle back shape here. So, and I've got my 26 gauge wire now in my hand. And again, this is 4 feet of 26 gauge wire. And I'm just going to hold all 3 of these pieces together. And you know what? If they don't completely line up, that's totally fine. As long as you can pinch them together and you can get that double circle shape that you want, it doesn't necessarily matter. if they're lined up. I'm going to take my 26 gauge wire, I'm going to hold it crossways. So that means I'm going to just put it 90 degrees to all three of these, and then I am going to go ahead and bind these together. That is going to mean that I have to take my wire through this small loop in the center. So in order to minimize kinks, the best way to do that is going to be to push the wire through and then pull. Wow, Lori buys her chocolate chips in the 2 kg bag. Oh my goodness. That would be considering that I live alone with my cat who can't eat chocolate, that would be a terrible idea for me to have here in the US, obviously it would be like 2 pounds of chocolate chips just readily available at any time. Oh my gosh, that would be the worst choice ever. I might have to do that. Huh. So anyway, continuing on with the project. Whilst now my brain is thinking of chocolate chips, and I used up all of my, this is another reason why I am upset about missing the opportunity, is I actually used up all of my gluten-free pancake and waffle mix on the waffles that I did not put chocolate chips in. So now if I want chocolate chip pancakes or waffles, not only do I have to get chocolate chips, I also have to get more gluten-free pancake and waffle mix. Or I could, you know, make it from scratch, but that also involves ingredients that I don't have. So either way, I am, I think, going to the grocery store. Anyway, but not right now because I have a project to teach. All right, so now this is bound together, and so everything should at this point be relatively stable, okay? It should be, so I wrapped it tight enough that these two ends, like when I push them, they're not moving when I push them gently, okay? If I wanted to adjust the length of this, I could still push these ends through and make this bigger, or pull them, make it smaller, but when you gently push on it at this point, it should not move. Now I got 2 ends to my 26 gauge wire, a short one and a long one. Keep the long one, you need that, but we can trim the short one off. So we're going to go ahead and take the short one, we're going to trim it off as short as we can, and then once again there's our pointy stabby, and we're going to go ahead and tuck that in so that it doesn't scratch anybody. And then we have our 2 ends of our 16 gauge wire, and this is where we're once again going to notice that I cut way more wire than I needed. So to make our loops, and I'm going to make 2 loops, I'm going to make one with this wire, one with that wire, and I'm going to line them up so you can see that on the sample like so. So we can cut those down to a solid 1/2 inch to 5/8 of an inch each. So that means I've cut 1 inch off of that side, and off of this side I have cut, okay, it's on the floor, but it looks like a solid 3.5 inches, which means that I really only needed 8 inches of wire for this instead of the 12 inches that I cut. So if you're using sterling or gold filled, you can definitely save yourself a little bit of wire. Learning from my overestimation. Now I'm going to take both of these and I'm going to make them into loops, which means I'm going to take my round nose pliers. I'm going to grab them one at a time, of course. At the end, I'm just going to roll over. And we want to kind of center over this binding. We're going to do the same here. So just grabbing at the end and then rolling it, and notice I'm doing kind of baby steps. This part gets a little tricky, so you just have to sort of, you know, move that over, and then you can use your chain nose pliers to kind of line everything up so you've got your 2 loops in alignment. Now this piece of 26 gauge wire is what's going to hold your beads, which means I need to open one of my bead strands, which I'm going to do by cutting it. And then, so the way this works is we're going to do a little bit of just kind of fill in here with like a bead and a bead, and then we're going to start doing swags with 2 beads each the rest of the way around till we get to the other side. So we got 1 bead, and then we're going to be doing 2 bead sections. So 1 bead, and I'm just, these strands are alternating hematite tiger eye, so I'm just taking them off the strand as they come. So we got 1 bead there. And I'm going to just take my one bead and kind of fit it in there. Now, I don't necessarily love this look here, so whilst trying not to let that bead, you know, fall off of the wire, I'm gonna just take a second and wrap my wire around my frame to get to a point that's big enough to hold my bead, and I just think that looks a little bit cleaner. Okay, I'm not gonna lie, now I really freaking want a 2-pound bag of chocolate chips, and I think I might need to go to Costco just for chocolate chips, and this is bad. This is a bad thing to want. Anyway, okay, so now that I've moved over, I'm gonna just take that bead, set it in that empty space, and then I'm gonna wrap around here. So what you basically have for this whole thing is you've got 2 anchor points, this one and this one. So we're gonna be, for the first couple beads, using both, then we're gonna be focusing primarily on this one. So for my anchoring, I'm just gonna put that through, pull it, and then go around one more time. So I'm gonna pull it through there, and then one more time through there. So I have a nice little anchoring wrap there, and I'm going to do one more single bead. This one's going to be a tiger eye, just because once again this strand is alternating, have a tight and tiger eye, and that goes on like so. And on this one I don't necessarily pay too much attention to whether it's coming from the front or the back, because the whole pendant is pretty organic. But that's, you know, if you do want to, you can make that. Now, here's the thing, is now I need to start anchoring things around here, except for the fact that my wire is over here. So I'm going to do one more 2 beads to get myself back to this smaller circle. Alright, so that's going to go back over here, and then we're going to wrap around there. Alright, so now I'm going to start those 2 bead swags. So what I'm going to do is basically put this here so that the wire is going towards the open space that's in between the 2 circles, and I'm going to do 2 beads, and then I'm going to wrap it on. 2 beads, wrap it on, 2 beads, wrap it on, until I get to the other side where I've got to repeat this pattern. So 2 beads on, and just bend it in half. The term I usually use for that is swag, but basically you're just curving that wire, and then you're going to anchor it around the point where it naturally crosses that other circle. So again, we're going to do a full 1 and then another half like so. If you want it to be closer, you can scooch it with your thumbnail, and then I'm going to do 2 more beads and then anchor it exactly the same way. So again, it's Thursday. We are back to our regular streaming schedule. That means that tonight is Torch Thursday. That means we are going to be doing this class, which I call Drawing with Wire. It's going to be a fun class, mostly focusing on just how to make different shapes with wire, and how to then solder those shapes together to make an actual, you know, picture out of wire and sterling silver metal. And I will say, as a fabricator, so there's so many amazing wire artists out there, and I have the utmost respect for everyone who's doing wire art. You know why? Because when I try and do some of those really complicated wire wrap designs, my brain just goes, I could just solder this together and it would be so much easier and so much more stable. And usually that's what I wind up doing. So, you know, kudos to everybody out there who's doing that sort of thing using nothing but wire and cold connections. But if you like torches, it's honest to God a lot easier. for me. I mean, not everybody loves torches. I get that, but I do love torches and fire. So tonight is going to be drawing with wire. I have no idea what I'm going to make, but hopefully something fun. And then tomorrow, of course, is Freeform Friday, because we're back on our schedule of alternating Zoom and Freeform Friday. So I'm just continuing with these little swags of beads. So there's 2 more, and I'm going to wrap that on. But yes, we're back on our schedule of alternating Zoom and Freeform Friday. So this Friday, that is tomorrow, is going to be a Freeform Friday project, which means I'm going to pick something random, and I'm going to make it on stream. I don't know what I'm going to do. I might actually... Oh, if I can remember to bring glitter, I might actually make my necklace for my Halloween costume, which of course we are doing a Halloween stream on the 30th of October. That's a Saturday. It's going to be our Saturday evening stream. So we're going to be, Heather and I will both be in costume. Our cocktail for that stream will be Death in the Afternoon, and that's guaranteed to be lots of fun. So that's going to be, of course, at the end of the month, but definitely have a little bit of preparation to do for Halloween stream. So maybe I'll do that tomorrow night. Maybe I'll do something else. It probably depends entirely on A, whether I remember to bring glitter to work, and B, how I'm feeling. And C, I didn't say there was going to be a C, but there is, how much time I have before the stream to prepare, because for Freeform Friday streams, sometimes it's just like, okay, I have to stream in 60 seconds, so let's pick a thing and do it. So what I did here, wow, let me pick all of the wrong frames. Okay, so I've got all of my swags here, and then I'm going to fill in this space, and then we're going to go back in and we're going to start linking up to these swags. So yes, tomorrow should be fun, Freeform Friday. Saturday is going to be, because we have so many cabochons Saturday, we're actually going to do a simple wire wrapped cabochon pendant. What is my hair doing? I don't even know. I think my hair is doing what it does when I need to cut my bangs. I'm pretty sure that's the thing. But yeah, when you do this last bit, okay, you're dealing with a severely limited space here. So this is where you have to actually pay some attention and make sure that your wire doesn't get kinked. Like, you can kind of la through most of this pendant, but in this particular spot, you do need to, you know, just kind of pay a little bit of attention just to make sure that it doesn't wind up in a giant knot. And again, the best way to do that is going to be to push it through the frame and then pull it through the frame, like so. Also, sensing a miscalculation in my preparations for opening, and that I haven't counted the cash drawer yet, and 25% of our staff is on vacation, and 25% of our staff appears to be running late, 25% of our staff is on stream, and 25% of our staff is not scheduled to start working until after we open. So oopsie, that's going to be a fun thing I have to figure out in about 10 minutes. But for now, I'm going to finish this project. Oh my gosh, so much phone ringing. So much phone ringing. Okay, so I filled in this section. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of swoop my wire down here so I can start getting things attached, starting with that swag right there. Okay, also, for those of you who are not familiar, this is my famous double chin pose. It's so attractive. Please don't clip that. But it really does help with making your wire, or helping your wire not to kink. So if you do, if you're wrapping your wire through and you just tuck the excess under your chin, again, it's the least attractive thing ever on the planet. And yes, I am doing that on the internet for everyone to see, but it really does help. Yay. Hey, Sank Mama. We've been missing you too. It's good to see you out there. We don't open for 10 more minutes, so I don't have to answer the phone until then, which is definitely a good thing, considering that I'm still working on finishing this pendant. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do 2 beads and I'm going to anchor it here, and then I'm going to start swagging using these center points as connection points. So 2 beads, and then I'm going to take that and I'm going to wrap it and anchor it around here, this point here, right between these 2 beads. And yes, I am going to use the super unattractive double chin wire hole to do that. Hi, Carol. Or not. Oh, hi. Hi. There's a person here. There's a Carol here. It's very exciting. Okay, so now I'm going to swag, and I'm going to swag, so this is where it starts to get a little bit more art than science, because I feel like if I swag just 2 beads, it's not enough. 3 beads, we'll do 3 beads. Even though it doesn't give me an obvious center point, 3 beads I think is still, 3 is the number we shall count. 5 is right out. Okay, so then we're going to swag, and we're going to anchor that swag onto here. So again, when I say anchor that swag, I mean I'm going to take my wire, I'm going to insert it through that little swag, and I'm going to pull everything through. Now, you want to be careful of this, okay? This is that kink that I keep telling you about, okay? We don't have a problem with kinks on the Beading Dream stream unless they're in wire. Pull that nice and tight. There we go. And then I'm going to do the same thing to here, to here, to here. So at this point, you're kind of just filling in your pendant. You're trying to fill in all of that negative space there. So if what I'm saying, you're like, that looks terrible, that is not something that I enjoy the look of, then come up with a different pattern. This is one of those things where it's like, you know, this is the way I do it, but it doesn't have to necessarily be the way that you do it. And one thing you do want to look out for is you want to make sure that your wires, or sorry, your beads do get snugged up to the beginning of your wire, which mine are not. There we go. Okay, so at this point I'm just kind of painting in the rest of my pendant with my beads. Now, how many beads does this pendant use? That question is really inextricably linked to the size of the beads that you use in your pendant. The bigger the beads, the fewer you're going to use, the smaller the beads, obviously. More, you're going to use more on this. So it's just kind of about what size of beads did you choose, and also how big did you make your wire piece. So it looks like I'm probably going to wind up using this whole 8-inch strand, one 8-inch strand of 4mm beads, but again, if you use smaller beads, you would absolutely use more of them than an 8-inch strand, probably, but again, that's also variable depending on how big you make your pendant, so, you know, so many variables. Okay, so now I'm at the end here, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to just fill in that space with 2 beads, and then I'm going to come back and I'm going to do my swagging again, going back the other way. Each swag, Lori, is just once. So it's just once through. You can see it there. It's not even like a full wrap around. And so now is where it's going to start getting kind of wonky, because I'm just trying to fill in all the space that I have. So I'm going to anchor on this swag here, and then I'm going to go to the edge. So, I'm going to wrap around the edge. Hey, Sophia! Welcome to Lunchtime Tutorial Stream. Okay, and when I'm wrapping around the edge, I do go all the way around because I got to get back to the center. So then I've got this. This is going to anchor around this swag here. Just going to go through and pull. So this particular project tends to be sometimes a little difficult to teach because there's not necessarily a codified formula for how you're going to do all of this filling in. It at some point just kind of degenerates into, well, that area looks like it needs some beads, so I'm going to put some beads there. And you're just going to do that until your pendant is, you know, basically completely filled up with beads. And sometimes that means 2 beads, sometimes that means 3 beads. You know, like it's probably going to be 3 beads to go from there to there. And then just find an opportune place to anchor it off. That looks pretty opportune to me. Go. So now I just have to fill in this space. Hey, would someone mind counting the drawer? Because I don't think I'm going to be done in time.
Sorry.
Thank you. Yay, Lori, for making awesome beads from last night's tutorial. I'm amazed that you actually managed to extricate beading information from all of the toad shenanigans of last night. So you definitely deserve a prize for that, Lori.
It's true. I got that Lori's instructions are 3 lines long.
I bet Lori's instructions have no comments about toads in them. Which could not be said about last night's stream. Okay, so I did need to open a second strand just because I need to fill in this last little bit here. So if you're making a bigger pendant, you can do, you know, another couple rows of swags if you want to, or you can just go straight to this, you know, filling in and finishing bit. That's really up to you. Lori says, no toad references in her notes, though she was tempted. Not surprising. I mean, no one else refrained from toad references last night, so there's that. Oh, goodness. Alright, so again, I'm going to anchor that at an opportune spot, which I think is going to be right there. And when you're anchoring, you're just going to hook it around that. And there you go. This one I think is going to be 2. And we're almost done. Yeah, but that's not a drink. Sure. Absolutely. I'm never going to say no. Alright, so I just need to fill in this little bit here and then we're done. Alright, so this last little bit, I think it's going to get these two, and okay, I think it needs to get anchored there, and I need one more there, and then it's done. God, don't you hate it when your own perfectionism, like, overrides your need to, you know, finish on time? It's unfortunate. But last one. So again, I had 4 feet of this 26 gauge wire, and so this one's just going to tuck right in there to fill in, well, those are going to stay in there to fill in that last little bit of space. But I cut 4 feet of the 26 gauge wire. I have more than I need. Okay, I could have gotten away with less 26 gauge wire, which is good considering that spool is obnoxious. So, ta-da! Okay, so now I can finish my wire. So I'm going to finish my wire. I'm just going to anchor it off by wrapping it about 4 or 5 times around my frame. So that's literally just through and pull. Be careful of kinks. So through and pull as tight as you can. Wrap it around. Repeat. Pull as tight as you can. And around. So your goal here is just some nice tight wraps. You want about 4 of them. 3 and 1 more makes 4. So once I'm done with these, I can go ahead and trim off the remainder of my 26 gauge wire. And so I did cut myself about 2 feet more than I needed, so I really could have gotten away with 24 to 30 inches instead of 4 feet on this. So if you need to adjust your notes, Lori, go ahead and do so. And then I'm going to press down my little pointy stabby bit that's right there so that I don't, you know, snag my clothing or my client's clothing, anybody who wears this. And that is our circle back pendant. You could absolutely drop a bead in the middle here, and that would be loads of fun. You could put this on a chain, you could put this on a leather. Because of the directionality of these loops, you're going to want to use a jump ring to do so, just like I did on this chain here, because if you just put a chain through there, obviously it's going to hang the wrong way, but a nice sturdy jump ring is going to work great for that. So thank you all so much for hanging out on the Beading Dreams lunchtime tutorial stream for our circle back pendant. Woohoo! For anybody out there who doesn't know me, I'm Allison from Beading Dreams in Dallas, Texas. We are an actual brick and mortar retail bead store. We're here on Lover's Lane in Dallas to feed your need to bead Monday through Saturday from 1 p.m. until 6 p.m. That means we are open for business right now, and we'll be here till 6 p.m. tonight. If you're not local in Dallas, good night, Lori. We will be back on this channel, twitch.tv/Beading Dream, this evening with our Torch Thursday project. Again, that's going to be this one, the drawing with wire project. So if you like torches, tonight's going to be a fun one for you. If you're not a torchy person, tomorrow night's going to be our freeform Friday. I have no idea what I'm going to be doing, but it's going to be something fun. And then we've got a wire pendant for you on Saturday. So everyone have a fantastic rest of your Thursday, and we'll see y'all back on this channel, twitch.tv/Beading Dream, tonight at 6 p.m. Central Time for Torch Thursday. And anyone who's a new viewer lurking out there, if you haven't already done so, do us a huge favor. Like us on Facebook, or follow us on Instagram, Twitter, or Twitch. It really does help us out a lot. So everyone have a fantastic Thursday, and we will see you all at 6.